Okay. I have pendiculated. You know what that means?
No, please. If you aren't already recording, I'd love to hear what your vocab word of the day is.
Pendiculated is when you do that stretch and yawn situation that people do.
Okay, the one that my cats do too.
Yeah, the big stretch.
Yeah, you can't see it, but I'm doing it like your arms make a goalpost.
Yeah, big stretch. It's called pendiculating.
Cool.
It's a bad word.
I'm never going to use that word.
It's not like a bad word. Like you can say it on TV.
Yeah.
But it's just like pandiculating. Not a top word, gang.
No. I think I'll skip that one on my 8th grade vocab quiz.
All right, enough pandicking around.
Oh! Well, you are pandering to a very certain type of literary nerd with this.
Okay.
Let's get this antique on the road show.
All right, count me down.
3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 90 of the 40k Badcast. 90 episodes, Campbell. Can you fucking believe it?
I absolutely cannot.
This is wild. I am Dan Boyd, and I'm joined, as always, by the world's largest Chumbawamba fan, Wumba McChumba. I'm sure I've used Chumbawamba already in the name game. I don't fucking care.
That's fine by me, as I am one whom does often get knocked down and on more than one occasion has gotten back up again.
I personally enjoy a lager drink and then a whiskey drink and then a cider drink in that order, and then I'm good to go. Okay, let's do it. Let's not fuck around too much this show, right. Campbell. Let's get right into it. Check out the aspects. What's on our hobby radar? So I'll start. Mm-hmm. I actually don't have a whole lot here. I've just been working on this impulsor. I have been a little bit of hobby or experiencing hobby myopia lately.
Ooh, another vocab word.
In that I have not been able to put as much time into hobbying as I wanted to, mainly because I started playing Total War Warhammer 2 again, which is always an enormous mistake because that usually ends up me 3:30 a.m. in the morning being like, oh, fuck, I should really go to sleep, but one more turn.
I think my favorite thing about Total War is spending like 40 to 60 hours on a campaign, not finishing it, and starting another one.
That's exactly how I do it. Oh, boy. Okay, well, I have played way too much of that. I have a new love for the Wood Elf faction of Drycha, or Dryka. I like to say Drycha. I think that's a little better of a word. She's the bark lady. And her whole deal is that she wants to kill everything that's not trees. So trees rule the world. And I am into that.
I'm about to say, that seems like an improvement.
I planted 5 trees in my yard in 2020, and I plan on planting more, maybe not more than 5, but more than 0 trees in my yard in 2021. Planting trees is important, everybody. Get out there and do it if you haven't done it already. That being said, I've been working on the impulsor. I'm highlighting the black panels right now. It takes a long time. There's a lot of detail on this model. A lot of edges, Campbell.
Yeah, I can see that.
And you know how much I love those. Other than that, I did buy some things for a secret project I'm working on.
Ooh,
that
is it so secret you can't talk about it here?
No, it's not all that secret. It's not even. It's not even a thing. I just don't want to cop to it yet in case it looks bad.
Yeah, you bought your second Orc Mega Bomber. Here we fucking go.
No, I got to do some converting. So I don't want to talk about it in case the project doesn't work. Because if it doesn't work, then I can just not continue it and never mention it, and it doesn't matter. It's cool.
Beautiful.
So, I am working on a secret project, just purchasing stuff for it so far. But I'm not ready to talk about it just yet. All right. What about you? What have you been working on?
Well, similarly, I've not really been having the hottest of hobby hot streaks, just between being perpetually tired just because of all the house shit we've been doing and also losing a ton of time to a video game, in my case, Darkest Dungeon, which if you're into the whole like old Warhammer aesthetic, it is so dead on.
Darkest Dungeon is fucking brutal, man.
I know. It's
I
so
like
good.
that game. It's fun. But oh boy, some of those combats are so brutal because like your dudes die on some bullshit, and then you're just like, oh cool. So now I'm filled with rage.
Nothing like having your like 3, for lack of a better term, star players all suffer heart attacks at the same time and die. That's what I did the other night. However, I have gotten some hobby in, the fucking bare minimum, I guess. So I have been working on the Wild Runners Death Maiden Feelings set. I painted the 4 Feelingses because I was like, what can I knock off my backlog very fast? So I painted so those cats just knocked them right out. I'm almost done with the Wild Runners, which is another 4 of them, but they have so many fucking like straps and teeth and little different textures on them that I keep being like, all right, I'm done with this. Nuts, they've got pelts on.
I forgot a thing.
There's so many little things to forget on them that like I never really thought about when I saw the pictures of the models because my eyes went to the bright colors, not the other shit. That being said, they're almost done. They look great. Like they're really cool models. They're just very laden with detail in a very GW way.
I have a question about your Eschers.
Yes.
I have a follow-up question from last episode.
Okay.
We talked about the pink you've been painting on your Eschers and how I mentioned that I thought it needs to be brought up another level, and you very resignedly, is that a word? Doesn't matter.
It is today.
Said, I guess I can do that. My follow-up question to you, Campbell, is did you do that?
Yes, I have been trying to do that. Give me 2 shakes. I'm just sending you a picture right now. So you are experiencing this in nearly real time, listener.
Oh, yes, I can see it. That looks better. That pops a little bit more.
Yeah, and you can also see where I smudged on the knee pads, but that's fine. I'll fix that later.
Oh, fix it in post.
Fix it in post. Photoshop it after the fact.
Is that how you get your models to look so good, Campbell? You cheater.
I did that once on a commission when I was like 20. It was a Vindicator, and I'd primed it yellow. It was for an Imperial Fist commission. They're like, "What does it look like?" I sent them the picture, and I look, and I just see this like fucking yellow hole down there, and I'm like, "All right, I'm just gonna smudge that black in Photoshop, and maybe get to that later." And I never know if I did.
Yeah, well, I don't know either.
Photoshop, it's like installing talent on your computer.
I use Photoshop for my job sometimes, and generally to make things like lower thirds and graphics and slides. It's great. It's a program with a lot of utility.
As far as Adobe programs goes, it doesn't crash my computer as often as the other ones. So C+ in my book. Anywho, aside from that, I did build and prime the Death Maidens, 5 more of the Escher Gangers using like the Forged pack, and I've got 5 more Gangers, Kriya the Huntress, and the Power Hammer Champion. Then I'll get the Fear Cats once I get around to it, and then I'll be done. Like I'd say my Eschers are at this particular juncture like over halfway done.
Okay, I have another follow-up question from last show.
Sure, why not?
So we talked a little bit last show about the armaments for your Death Maidens, or as I have been calling them in my head for the last 35 seconds, Meth Dadens.
Ooh, good spoonerism. Very on brand for Eschers.
And you talked about how you didn't like the look of the Venom Claw, even though the Venom Claw is actually a pretty good combat weapon. So what weapons did you go with for your Meth Dadens?
Okay, one does have a Venom Claw, but also has a plasma pistol.
Oh, I love it, yeah.
And the other one has a needle pistol and either a stiletto sword or power sword, depending how I feel that day.
Oh, that's fantastic, Campbell. Once again, you've outdone yourself. You are a true champion and a good friend.
Oh, well, thank you. And also, the actual champions are the Death Maidens, not me. That's a little Necromunda joke for you.
The real heroes. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's great. Now you were getting on to something before I interrupted you with follow-up questions. So please continue with your hobby progress.
Oh, that's it for hobby progress. I was just going to let you know that I have the Escher dice set that came out like when they first
had Is it good or is it bad?
It's pretty. Like it's it's just like your typical D6s, but on the 6s are the Escher symbol.
Okay, yeah.
However, using 2 of those Eschers with the eyeballs and the 3 bullet hole symbol, you can make a little smiley face, which I've just texted you.
You're the most easily amused person I know, Campbell.
I have done this more than once.
Never change.
Don't intend to. Anyway, you get any games in?
Well, Campbell, you start the games played section. I'll let you know about the games I played after you go first. That's how we do it here on the Badcast.
That is fair. I was just trying to lob that ball back to you. So I actually got my first game of 40k proper in Tabletop Simulator, which I've always been kind of like, I've been a little dubious of it just because it seems like there's so many moving parts. And spoiler alert, there are a lot of moving parts to make Tabletop Simulator work for 40k, but it mostly does, which is frankly shocking to me.
Okay.
I'd say a very fun thing is just kind of playing hide and seek with, or not hide and seek, it's like a scavenger hunt for where did they rip these assets from? Because a bunch are just like weird muddy models, like auto-generated from the 360 photos from the GW site.
Yeah.
Some are like just models from Dawn of War 1 or 2. Some of them I remember from mods I installed in like 2008, which is kind of like, hello, old friend, how are you doing? And the maps are great because they're either like boxes or buildings ripped from Fallout 3.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. But I got in a game against Cody, who, one of my friends from back east.
Yeah.
And we played what we knew. So he stuck with Dark Eldar. I stuck with Ultramarines. I think even the lists we took were things we own or have painted already. Like, the only thing I haven't used before in the list I took was an Impulsor. We did what's up? I can hear you stifling multiple giggles.
No, you guys are just like so normy about your fucking Warhammer.
Like, I don't know how to play this fucking game. I've played 45 minutes of 9th edition before. I'm going to try to stick with something I understand.
It's like you bought a sex swing and the only thing you ever do is sit in it and watch TV.
Whee! Yeah, sometimes you go to an ice cream parlor and you just want to get vanilla, all right?
An ice cream piler? What's that?
I assume it's like a landfill for ice cream.
Is it a place where you throw ice cream in a pile?
Yeah, my mouth. Fucking Lord. All right, so anyway, rather. We played a pretty typical 9th edition game. 1,000 points, no secondaries, just the crossfire mission. Just figure out the fucking basic rules because neither of us know them, and neither of us have played 40k like in a year and change.
Oh, yeah.
I'd say we were pretty. Did
you have an observer there to help you with rules?
Dylan was watching, which is funny because he knows the rules worse than I do.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think Dylan has many skills. And is a valued member of my hobby circle and a friend, a personal friend of mine. But I wouldn't go to that guy for rules.
Well, the problem is in the old East Coast group, I was the rules knower, which is a fucking nightmare. So sorry. A situation has come to mind of when we were at Nova. After you finished your Knight's Army and I had finished the Astraeus, and Craig Sniffen was at the table watching us play, and he was quoting rules, and every single time he said a rule was this way, he was wrong. Yeah. It was great. It was really good. He's the lore master, not the rule master.
Also, this is the guy that he and British Patrick, won the trivia contest at Adepticon for us, basically. Well, you
I carried us over
at the end.
Yeah,
but it was mostly Craig and Patrick who got us to the finish line, right? So, like, he's a smart guy. He knows a lot of stuff, but man, that day he must have been having a bad day or something because he didn't get any of the goddamn rules right.
Yeah.
And it's bad because like he sounds so confident.
Oh yeah.
When he's answering a question.
Well, it's the same sort of thing where like if you
walk, just like yeah, it's that way. Don't worry about it. I know what I'm talking about. and you're just like, you trust them.
Yeah, he's social engineering his way into playing the game his way. Like if he was carrying a clipboard and wearing a suit and just like walking at a pretty accelerated pace through an airport, no one would stop him.
Yeah,
it's the same idea.
He's got a very confident. What do you call it? Aura. There we go.
Yeah, energy. So unfortunately, our friend Rob from Goonhammer did step in at one point, and he did start telling us how the game works.
Good. He knows.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh yeah, you're in cover, and Campbell's charging you. You can stand your ground, and you get like +1 to hit, or whatever." And
Set
Cody's
to
like,
defend. Is
yeah,
what that's
one.
called.
Yeah, and Cody's like, "Okay, cool." I'm just like, "You can fire Overwatch if you spend a command."
I legitimately always forget to set to defend.
Yeah, why would you? Well, it's a new thing. It's like I'm
It's
not used
a new
to.
thing. Yeah, I never remember to do it. It's okay though.
All right, so we played this kind of like somewhat bare bones version of Ninth just because we're trying to figure out the basics of it.
What do you mean by somewhat bare bones? Did you strip out all the phone rules?
No, just no secondaries.
Oh, god damn it, Campbell. This is okay. I'm sorry, dude.
Well,
I'm sorry.
We were set up to play, and it was like, wait, did you choose secondaries? No, did
My
you?
guy,
No.
secondaries are half the points of the game. Okay,
They're a third of the points of the game.
It's 45 points for secondaries, 45 points for primaries, and 10 points for painting.
There's only 10 points that matter here, Dan.
Okay. Dude, you have to understand that secondaries are an enormous part of the game. And if you're ever going to, like, when everybody gets vaccinated and we get to do this stuff again, you're going to have to know this stuff.
Oh, I know I'm going to have to. I know. I'm just learning to walk before I learn to run.
Oh, man.
And also, we were just like, we'd already gotten everything set up, and it's like, fuck, what are these things? We didn't figure this out. It was just, we already had the army set up. We already had the board set up. It was just like, one more damn thing. Let's just get dice rolling.
I don't know why this bothers me so much, but it
bothers you a lot.
Seriously, but like, okay, you know why it bothers me? Because secondaries, I think, are one of the things that make match play in 40K really fun. Because it changes the way you play your game based on what secondaries you choose. And it's part of the strategic thinking of how to win a game is secondaries. If you're just going to play primaries, then at the end of the game, it's probably going to be 45 to 45. If you've got
my sweet summer child.
If you've got two players who know what they're doing at all. Which is like, okay, cool, nice tie, high five, everybody goes home happy. No, secondaries are like that's a huge part of the game, and something that makes it like more than just like a board game, or more than just like how most people play Necromunda, which is deathmatch every game.
It's more than just 8th edition 40K.
And more than just 8th edition 40K. So I don't know. I think that's why it bothers me, is because I'm just sad that you're missing out on like a lot of the flavor of a game of match play 40K.
Well, I want to. I do want to play with secondaries. I want to play the whole thing. Just get my way into it first.
This is so wild to me.
I just don't know how this fucking game works. I'm trying to learn.
I mean, you mostly know. Oh god damn it! Where is it? Fuck.
Waiting on it.
Nope, it's on the
Waiting
second
on
page. There it is. Fuck you, Baltimore. Oh, and listeners, it's not Voldemort. Okay, it's Baltimore. This is from a very old internet meme called Big Bill Hell's whatever. It's
pre-internet. It's Big Bill Hell's used cars.
Yeah, and it's a very old meme. It's Baltimore. It's very funny. Just go to YouTube, search Big Bill Hell's, and you'll see it, and you'll love it, and you'll get it. It's not Voldemort.
No, it never has been. Never will be.
I guess fuck Voldemort, but in all honesty, fuck J.K. Rowling. Her whole shit is poison all the way down. Okay, you were saying. Were you saying? Was anyone saying?
You were saying mostly.
I did say mostly. Yeah, man. I don't know. It just bothers me when you this is like the second time you've done this.
Yeah,
and like
in 12 months.
Yeah, I okay. It's been a weird year. Okay, it's been a weird 12 months. But I just want you to play. I just want you to figure it out. I just want you to have the fun that I know you can have.
Oh, I know. I'm just trying to play 40K. I'm trying to learn a new rule set. I'm trying to learn a new tool to use that rule set, namely Tabletop Simulator, which is not without its fair share of clunkiness. And without any sort of like miscommunications that might happen since I'm not across the table from my opponent. Just I'm trying to minimize points of failure, get comfortable with those points of failure, and then expand outwards from there.
I mean,
I will play with secondaries probably next time he and I play, which should be soon. We've been talking. But for this first one, where he hadn't played 40K period in over a year, figured to keep it a little simple. And also because we just wanted to get the fucking game going already.
All right.
Got places. Okay, we don't have places to be or people to see, but we assumedly have things to do.
You were about to say you have places to be and people to see. You were about to say that.
I was, and then I quickly rescinded that because I remembered what year it is. Okay, so as for the actual game, I got to use a lot of stuff I haven't gotten to use before. So like
Except
Blade Guard.
I'm sorry. That was a
fucking Christ. There's some real like this is what energy around what you're saying.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry about that. It would have been a lot funnier if we were in the same room, I think.
Yeah, you're telling me I had to be there. And I'm the other half of this conversation.
I mean, I'm having fun. That's really what's important.
That's the point of the show, yeah. Okay. Warhammer 40,000, the game over the internet with friends. That's what I'm talking about. I got to use a bunch of the new units from Indominus, which I haven't gotten to use yet. It's like Outriders, Blade Guard, the Blade Guard captain Aglio Vongole, because yes, I use his name every time I refer to him. And thank you very much. Gatsy. And I got to load them into an impulsor, shoot them around. All right, so I fired up some Outriders up my like left flank to kind of get on one of his objectives. Right before he dumped Drazar and Archon and a bunch of Incubi onto that objective and made it so I was no longer holding it, which meant I got to mess around with the new plasma cannon on the Dreadnought and make his dudes go away, which fucking ruled. So, he did overrun them, and my Dreadnought was able to, like, kind of clear them off. I was ignoring all his other Raiders, which were flying all over the place. And the thing is, when you have a bunch of Raiders, a bunch of Dark Eldar in those Raiders, you can get on a lot of objectives very fast. And when you are largely Marines on foot trying to keep your one vehicle from getting blown up, and your only fast attack unit has been chopped to pieces, you can't get on objectives as fast. So he was just racking up the points a little faster than I was. And unfortunately, from there, it didn't really go super well for me. Like, my Blade Guard were able to jump out and chop up some Dark Eldar warriors, but I didn't really need that sledgehammer to hammer in those, fucking tiny tacks. And, my captain was able to overrun some other, Dark Eldar warriors. I don't know, like, it really... I feel like I had better notes for how this game was going to go before I got sent way the fuck off course. Yeah. But
well, I mean, you are taking a whole lot of time to talk about your games played.
To talk about a 3-hour long 1,000 point game.
That was a dig at you, because I kept running you off track.
That is fine.
So I was turning it around on you, making it seem like it was your fault that it's taking you so long to get through that. Well, in reality, it's my fault.
Mm-hmm. That is perfectly fair. I got really close to overrunning one of his objectives by running over all the dudes on it with an impulsor, and I was very sad that I failed to hit any of them with its bumper. But there was a bit of addition bleed. Like, there was definitely like, does this work like this way? Is that a 5th edition rule? Is that an 8th edition rule? Is that a 3rd edition rule? Is that a new rule? And when Rob was there to clarify some of those, that was helpful. There were definitely some things where like I totally forgot. Like, he had a unit of 10 Mandrakes deep strike in next to
Mandrakes.
He has them painted, so he wanted to use them on the tabletop. I told you, exceedingly vanilla, and his look wonderful. So they dropped. How
did the representations of Mandrakes look in Tabletop Simulator?
They looked like they were models that were like custom made, but also kind of ripped from like the Night Elves from Warcraft 3. Okay, because that's a lot of it is also like Warcraft 3 terrain. They dropped in next to my intercessors, and I'm like, oh man, after they had melted all my dudes, I was like, shit, I should have used the Auspex Scan Stratagem, and I might have been able to gun down 1 or 2 of them.
Well, they only have 1 wound apiece, right?
Yeah, but you're -1 to hit them. Actually, no, that doesn't stack anymore.
No, it doesn't
Addition bleed.
Actually, Auspex Scan in this edition doesn't have a -1 to hit.
Oh, cool.
Oh my God.
I'm with it, man.
Did you guys at least use the January FAQ for match play?
I don't know. I assume not. I'm not going to go quite as hard of a Luddite stance as like Peter has, where he plays with a just printed materials version of the game. But I can't say we're all up to date on everything. If any points values got updated, I sure as hell wasn't using. I was using my old points values, which are just so
everybody knows. I'm not blaming Cody at all on this. I think Cody is unimpeachably great. This is all you, Campbell.
I agree with your sentiment, and yeah, that's why he beat me. Anyway, it was fun. We'll be doing it again sometime soon.
Yeah, Dark Eldar, man, they hit hard, but the whole thing with Dark Eldar is not letting is counterpunching, right? So they're gonna take a couple units off the table when they get the opportunity to do so. You just got to be sneaky. You got to hide your units, and you got to punch back hard.
Yeah, I did a very bad job with that because I'm like, oh, I've got my unit of the fucking autocannon Bumble Boys suppressors. Where am I going to put them? On top of a building where everyone can see them.
No, they can get murdered before they do anything.
Oh, one of them got to shoot once. He put 2 wounds on a venom.
Did you shoot him 3 times or twice?
I shot him 3 times. I had all the codices out in front of me, which did make my desk look like I was on the case of something. Yeah, because there was like an open rulebook, open Ultramarines, open codex, and it's just like, here's all my things. Where's my Corkforce?
Yeah. Okay. I like it. All right.
Yeah. It was fun.
I didn't play any games.
That's fine.
All right. New stuff. Let's move on. Okay. So Dark Angels is out in the world, Campbell.
Hell yeah.
We've got previews on certain websites like Goonhammer. And I think the consensus is that they're real fucking good.
That's what I've been hearing. I read Greg's article on Goonhammer where he was...
Yes, so much where our friend Greg wrote an editorial on Goonhammer, which is rare. So Dark Angels, very powerful. You can build your Raven Wing, which of course is the 3rd company of the Dark Angels, and second company. Second company of the Dark Angels, and they all are on motorcycles and land speeders. They get some
ATVs.
I guess ATVs are part of it now. They get some cool stuff where they get extra movement on the first turn in the Devastator Doctrine. Pretty cool. Then Deathwing comes around, and that's the first company of the Dark Angels. And this is where Dark Angels get unfair and potentially unfun, because all of them have transhuman physiology on, which, of course, is the best possible wound roll against them at all times is a 4 or better, which turns... It gets pretty nuts how effective that is at keeping a unit of Marines alive. They get all of that on all of the inner circle units. And the only problem with that is that the inner circle units usually have 3 wounds and an invulnerable save.
And a 2-up armor save.
Yeah, well, if they're not in cover, and then they're going to 1-up. Yes. So it's kind of a tough nut to crack. Of course, an all inner circle army will be, as we say, very elite, meaning not a whole lot of models, and board presence and getting on and staying on objectives is very important in 9th edition. So, we'll see how those work out in the upcoming tournaments and places that are holding them or safe enough to hold them, which I think right now is only Australia. And I know that there are some in the United States that are going on regardless of, CDC recommendations. And that seems like a bad idea, but I'm, I don't want to get too far into that. So,
who are you to get in the way of someone who's willing to play a day of Warhammer at the cost of their life and the life of everyone around them? Who are you? Who do you think you are? I bet you don't even want to eat without a mask on inside a Denny's.
This is like the 3rd show in a row where I haven't played any games. Because every now and then I'll play a game against like one of the friends that I see pretty regularly because we're like potting or whatever we're calling it. But I just haven't been able to do that for various reasons. And I mean, I don't really want to do Tabletop Simulator, because for me, part of it is looking at the models you have. It's like Tabletop Simulator just doesn't do it for me. I've watched people play on it, and it, if people are having fun with that, that's great. I know that a lot of like real big tournament player folks are like really into Tabletop Simulator because you can get a ton of games in without having to do anything.
Right.
Which, great. Cool. If it works for people, I'm very happy to hear it, but I'm not really interested in trying to make it work for me. And so that means that I'm just not playing a lot of games. That sucks, because I really want to play, because I've got all this new Space Marine shit that I've been working on. And I just haven't been able to get after it, which is too bad.
Yeah, I get that.
Anyways.
I think, the comparison I've heard is that like playing Tabletop Simulator and things of its ilk is like,
it's like wearing a condom, right? Oh,
actually,
fuck yeah.
I mean, you're not going to get viruses that way.
Like it raw. Ooh, this is gross.
Yeah, just fucking, I'd say pull up, but too far gone.
Never.
It's like eating food without seasoning. You know, it's better than nothing, but it's nowhere near as good as it could be.
So Dark Angels, they're really good. I'm happy for the Dark Angels players, I guess. I'm happy until I go to a tournament when it gets safe to do so and I get raffle stomped by a Dark Angels player. Yep. I will say that.
With how fast the meta moves, by then they might be garbage.
When that happens, I'll come back here and bitch about it on the podcast. Okay.
Looking forward to it.
More new stuff. Hey, people of Los Angeles, California, you're getting a Warhammer cafe. You did it.
Enjoy. Oh, wait, you can't.
We've got 2 in the United States now, Los Angeles, California, which is not like built and ready yet, but they've announced that they're going to be putting Warhammer Cafe. I haven't been to the one in Dallas.
It's not in Dallas. It's in Grapevine.
That's the greater Dallas area, I believe. I think, listen, there's like that part of Texas, DFW, if you will, is like a lot of sprawling suburbs. Mm-hmm. And I am just going to refer to it as Dallas.
Okay.
I know that there's Arlington and Grapevine and other places, I'm sure. Arlen. Yes, of course, Arlen. But no, it's just Dallas to me. And that's how it's going to stay. I don't give a shit about Texas. And if you're from Texas, I'll kick your ass. How about that? Ooh, spicy.
As soon as it's safe to do so.
As soon as it's safe for both of us to do so. So yeah, that's cool. Good for you, LA. I'm happy for you. Mm-hmm. Okay, I got some Cursed City news here, Campbell. Hot off the presses. This shit is legit. 2 things. First, we are introduced to the first wave of NPCs, the Skeletal Ulfenwatch.
These are the dudes you're just going to be cleaving through by the dozen.
Yes.
And they're just like those classic vampire count skeletons.
Yes.
And they look so fucking good.
They look amazing, but more importantly, they are undead cops. The perfect enemy.
You can't feel bad about killing these guys. Their poses look like so good and shambling in a lot of the way that the new Necron warriors do. Yeah. And like unnatural in like a good way, like they're reanimated by dark magic and shit. I love them. There's like some negative space you can like see through their jaw, like through their neck bones and pass. Oh, they are. I am so stoked to kill dozens of these
Maybe,
dudes.
you know what? Maybe they're not even cops. Maybe they're undead neighborhood watch.
They're like undead rent-a-cops. They're undead Paul Blarts. Undead Paul's Blart.
Undead mall cops. That's what I'm talking about.
The Malfin Watch.
What could be a more hateful group? Undead mall cops.
Warhammer Quest Mall of America. Shop till you drop.
Yeah, so I think these models are really great. They've even got a little bit of a story about the head Paul Blart there, whose name is Alexander Hallgrim.
Sure.
Good name. Sure. Yeah. There's a bunch of like little doodads on their website where they have pictures and stuff where you can find some of these characters, like this Hallgrim guy. He's there in the artwork before he was a skeleton.
Yeah, he's presented in meat form.
In his meat prison, which is where we like to be. I don't know about that. Anyway,
alternative.
So these things look really cool. Next up, we've got the first player character, who I'm very, very excited about. And her name is Kulathis the Exile, and she is a Waywatcher, I believe, of the Sylvaneth faction.
Yeah, she's
a wood elf. I mean, she's not a Sylvaneth, because the way I look at it, Sylvaneths are tree people, right? I don't know how accurate that is. She's actually a wood elf, so I guess she's Kurnoth.
Yeah, they're Kurnoth Wanderers, I think.
Whatever.
Is what the things come together for. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's. I mean, okay. So I've been playing lately. Total War Warhammer 2. Playing a lot of wood elves, mainly because of the trees, because, into trees over here. And, oh man, I don't know. I was thinking about how it might be cool to have a Sylvaneth army for AOS.
Yes.
Paint them in like gray and purple with autumnal leaf coloring.
I mean, there are some good like manufacturers out there who do like flocking and like static grass and stuff like that for different seasons that you could really go hard on.
Yeah, bud. I was thinking about it, and I was like, man, it would be cool to have a Sylvaneth tree army. Just trees. I don't really care about elves, but the trees. I was looking at the models too. They're pretty good, those Sylvaneths.
I mean, when the Sylvaneth came out in AOS, that was kind of when like the sort of community view of Age of Sigmar got a lot softer. Because it was so critical at first, especially when it was just like, here's your chubby golden boys, and here's your blood barbarians. They fight over something, I guess, and there really wasn't much to latch onto. And when the Sylvaneth kind of had their release, it's like, oh wait, they're doing cool stuff now. Like it was only like the second or third army release after the first two, but yeah, I think it's a very well developed range, and I really like where they're going with just the elves, because like the elves in Beastgrave, where they're like satyrs, I'm not super down with. The Centaur one's kind of cool, but I'm not really down with the Satyr ones. But this lady, who just looks kind of like your classic Wood Elf, but with, a really cool antler headdress, is kind of what I'm here for Wood Elves.
Oh, no, she looks fantastic. She's even wearing a mask, which in 2021, very important to do.
Very important.
Listen, even when you're killing skellies, you have to worry about your PPE. And I kudos to Games Workshop for designing this model probably 3 years ago with the foreknowledge of the pandemic of 2020 and 2021. Why they didn't tell anybody, I have no idea. Seems like a bit of an oversight, but who am I to say? It's a really cool model. I like the staghorn headdress. I really like her pose and her bow. She's got a little hero rock action, which, as we know, I'm not a huge fan of, but it's tame compared to other things we've seen. So I'm a fan. I can't wait for this game. I am like, I am every time they put anything out for Cursed City, I am voraciously consuming it.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, they're just doing the little breadcrumbs. You're not going to get full on these appetizers just yet.
All right, well, let's move on to some Warhammer Underpants bad hole news. We've got to look, our first sneak peek at the new Savage Auric warband for Warhammer Underpants. And if you are into the caveman orc aesthetic, then I've got great news because it's back.
Yeah, it's back now in Underworld's form. He looks like the Blood Angel Terminator with the lightning claws from Space Hulk, like the exact same Wolverine pose. He's good. He's orc. He's savage orc.
I've never been into the savage orcs. I've always been, when it comes to greenskins, I'm always like a night goblin and black orc, Grimgore, Ironhide type person.
I'm more into the plate mail orc aesthetic myself.
Yeah, so I don't know. Savage orcs don't really do it for me, but I'm sure there's somebody out there who really likes it.
There definitely are. And I think, they'll have a shaman in there too, which is cool. Yeah. All
right.
It's good.
And finally, we got a very, very short sneak peek at some new Dark Eldar rules. Cody should be happy.
Ooh, yeah.
Cabalite warriors get a second attack, which is nice, I guess, though I think these guys generally fold like a bad hand when it comes to combat because they are toughness 3, 1 wound with a 4-up armor.
Hey, they used to be a 5-up, though, so they're going to fold a little less quickly.
So second attack is nice, though, for when they got to get... But generally, you want your Cabalite shooting, not fighting.
Correct.
So I don't know how useful that second attack is. But the Splinter Cannon moving to damage 2...
That's pretty big.
That ain't nothing.
Yeah,
when you got a lot of 2-wound models out there, that ain't nothing. So that's good. Congratulations, Cody, on your continued ownage of one Campbell Glassland. He moved 3,000 miles to get away from losing to you every time you play, and he can't escape. It's beautiful. I love it.
I can't escape getting owned. It's true.
Okay. That's it for new stuff. Let's move on to We Make the Call, where you guessed it, Campbell. We make the call. This one's from Mike Milea via email. Mike says, I was wondering what sports other than Blood Bowl you think they okay in Fantasy 40k. Fantasy/40k, I should say. My first thought was pro wrestling, but that's mainly because I want to see a 2-man tag between Gilliman and Marnius Calgar against Gazkul and Makari. Other possibilities include hockey, or Viscera on Ice, as it would undoubtedly be called, in softball, but I think they already play that one with severed heads in Komora.
Yes.
Thanks for the entertainment in advance, Mike. You fool. You You smooth-brained fool. No, Mike, thank you so much for writing. That's a joke. You're a very smart and handsome person. Now you're just giving me an opportunity to talk about professional wrestling, and I'm going to take it. I am going to run with that shit. Okay, the great thing, Campbell, about a tag team match is something called the face in distress situation, where generally the babyface team, the good guys, are... One of them is going to get their ass kicked for like half the match by the other two, the heel team. Okay. Where they're going to be tagging in and out constantly and just beating the crap out of this poor babyface. And it all comes to a big moment where the babyface finds that last reserve of strength, throws off one of the heels, and like at the last second crawls over to make the tag to the usually bigger and stronger half of the babyface tag team to come in and clear house.
You were describing an average episode of this show. Go on.
And that is, it's one of the most dramatic and exciting moments of any possible wrestling match. And I would love to see Gaskell and Makari, who of course are the faces in this, against the heel team of Gilligan. Gilligan. How about Gilliman? Gilligan and Skipper.
So here's the thing. Gilliman and Calgar being a father-son tag team wrestling match.
Gilligan and Skipper. Thank you very much.
Being... This doesn't work anymore, but a father-son tag team wrestling team is a very interesting dynamic, and one that would be very well done with, against Mortarion and Typhus or
there
whatever.
There is real-world precedent for that right now in 2021. Billy Gunn, formerly of...
Young Guns?
I was going to say D-Generation X and WWE. He wrestles with both of his sons sometimes in tag matches. They're called the Gun Club because their last name is Gunn.
That's fun. That's Fun Club, Gun Club. Now, we have talked about Grimdark Sports before in episode 78. I do think professional wrestling really does have a lot of room here, though, because I'm just thinking of, like, you can get Tycho in the ring, and he can have, and he comes in there, like, all pretty and so on, and then halfway through the match, he starts getting beat up real bad, and he gets to, like, put on the mask on, like, the other, the fucked up side of his face, and become Death Company Tycho in a real, like, Hulkamania sort of thing.
Yes.
Where he suddenly like shrugs off all damage because he's invincible now, and that's when he can really clean house.
Or he like gets like thrown under the mat or something, and he does like a quick costume change under there where nobody can see, and he pops out in his Death Company colors, and everybody's like, "Oh shit!" Losing their mind in the crowd. It's Death Company Tycho. Oh, they've got no chance now. Oh god! Like that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I feel like that's got to be or you could have like the Sanguinor in there, and he's got to take his mask off, and underneath his mask is the same exact mask, just like Sting taking off the Sting mask. I mean, all right.
Love it.
If we were just to go real quick on some Space Marine Legions or chapters, like you got your shield chapters and your face chapters, because like Blood Angels, absolutely a face chapter.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
110%. White Scars, face chapter. Space Wolves, face chapter.
They can do so they can do both though. Because they're one of the like the badass face teams or stables or whatever, where they're like sometimes they're good guys when they're in a feud with like some heels that are generating a ton of heat, but other times they're the ones generating the heat, when they're like taking down the Thousand Suns or whatever. Yeah,
that's true. They have the opportunity.
This means like the Emperor is basically Vince McMahon.
Yeah, and as he creates the custodes, he does the thing and falls back in his chair. Though I guess that would really happen with the creation of the Primaris.
I mean, the Emperor is a huge piece of shit, and so is Vince McMahon. So it works. It checks out.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I'm also thinking like with the Alpha Legion, that'd be a case where it'd just be like your typical one-on-one match. It'd be like, oh, today in the ring we've got Logan Grimnar versus Alfarius, and then like Alfarius would like start like beating him up, and then another guy who looks just like him would start beating him up too, and they'd be like, oh, there's two Alfarius in the ring. This is not allowed. This is against WWE rules. And it would just be like, and of course they'd never get any sort of like censoring because it's theater, but still, I feel like you got a lot of
100%. It would totally be like a situation where Alfarius is in the ring, and he's losing, and then somebody jumps out of the crowd, right? And like storms the ring, and they've got like a mask or a hood on or something, and they throw it back, and it's Alfarius.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, there's two out there, and because they're twins or whatever, and then like they start kicking the other guy's ass. Like that to me, like you start with a ref bump too, like like the ref gets hit and gets quote unquote knocked out, and then the second Alfarius shows up, and then Alfarius and Omegon are kicking this person's ass, and they do their tag team finisher on him and wake up the ref. Ref counts to 3 and they win. Okay. That's awesome. I'm super excited about this now. Yeah. Mike, listen, you asked about other sports. We're not going to talk about other sports. We are only talking about pro wrestling. And I think that there's like heels on both the loyalists and traitor sides.
Absolutely.
Like the word bearers, Lorgar, huge heel, obviously a huge heel. Like everybody hates him, gets nuclear heat from the crowd when he comes out with his holier than thou stuff and tells everybody how they're doing it wrong. But he never wins any matches. He's a jobber that gets a ton of heat. It's great stuff. I think Gilliman and the Ultramarines are like so goody that they could make a sick heel turn.
Yeah, that's true.
Just the I'm better than you and you know it kind of situation that they can do. Like that. Like Mr. Perfect, if you remember him, or Lex Luger, he did a heel turn where he brought out this enormous stand mirror before every match, had it set up in the ring, and then he would go into the ring and he would like do bodybuilder poses into the mirror.
Oh my god, that's some real Sigvald Magnificent shit.
Oh my god, it was so good. That's Emperor's Children bullshit right there, right?
Yeah.
Like coming out and like because your body's so perfect and you're like, oh my god, this is great. I'm getting really excited about this. This is fun.
Yeah, why isn't there a Black Library novel about this? Why isn't there a video game about this yet?
I don't know. If you make libraries, novels, or video games, just contact us and we can flesh this out.
Yeah, I will settle for a producer credit.
All right, Mike. Thanks for that. That's a great question. Let's move on. So our first segment this show is kind of a surprise to me once again. Campbell, you just told me that you wanted to do Fulgrim's Book Nook about the first Ravener book because you have capital O opinions.
Correct. So Fulgrim's Book Nook, which is what we haven't done in a bit, is basically just like, it's usually kind of like capsule reviews, like just talking a little bit about stuff, as opposed to a formal book club where we talk for like extent, like double length thing about a book, and often bring in a guest or whatever. This one is just mostly just me sharing my opinions about this particular book because it really rubbed me in a weird way. I will be spoiling a fuckload about Ravener, so fucking listen in or not. All right, so Ravener is like for like the uninitiated, which you shouldn't be if you're listening at this point, but what the fuck ever. Ravener was one of Eisenhorn's proteges, and he's introduced in the second Eisenhorn book.
Who's Eisenhorn, Campbell?
Eisenhorn is an Inquisitor, kind of like the Inquisitor as far as books are concerned. Dan Abnett wrote now 4 Eisenhorn books, which is what led me into reading this, and I've read the first 3 and I fucking love them. They're a view of domestic 40k in a way you don't really get to see in other books, and Eisenhorn himself is somewhere between Sherlock Holmes, James Bond, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Really, like he really is Inquisitor Obi-Wan Sherlock Clouseau, and he does like change and grow from story to story. He becomes like more wounded, more radical, more desperate with each story, and each is a very satisfying book in its own right, and they make a really wonderful arc.
Best part of that whole story is how Gregor Eisenhorn becomes this like rogue, terrifying Inquisitor who uses the powers of chaos for his own benefit through a series of like difficult but obvious choices that at no point seem radical.
Yeah. And that's kind of like one of the things, even the Inquisitor rulebook, which is what the first Eisenhorn book was written to coincide with. It basically says every single Inquisitor almost every Inquisitor starts as a Puritan who's like by the book. And over time, if they don't die first, become more and more radicalized and more radical until they like walk down this path of damnation.
I mean, except the ones that don't. And are basically the bad guys in every book, who are too stubborn and intransigent to quote unquote do the right thing.
Yes. So I recently picked up the Magos from my local library, and I was really enjoying reading it. And it has this like I didn't actually really grasp there's a short story collection. With
and
a
this, of
novel
course, is the most recent Eisenhorn book.
Yes, it even says the new Eisenhorn novel, which is kind of like, all right, fine.
And there's a long time between Eisenhorn books.
Yes.
Eisenhorn. Here we go. A long time. So when they released the Magos, a lot of people were very, very excited about it.
Yeah. So I've been reading through there, and it's got like a reading order where it's like, okay, you read these short stories, this novel, these short stories, this novel, these short stories, this novel. And like some of the short stories in there introduce some characters that you find later in Ravener. Some are like, you know, taking on characters from the Eisenhorn books, like The Strange Demise of Titus Endor, which is probably my favorite short story in there, and maybe the only 40k story I've read where nobody fires a shot in anger, and it's like weird and sad and really good. While others introduce characters like Playing Patience introduces one of the Ravener characters, Patience Keys. So this led me up to reading Ravener, because with that reading order, before you get to the Magos, you need to read the 3 Ravener books.
Okay.
So Ravener himself, he's introduced in the second Eisenhorn book, Malleus. He's Eisenhorn's interrogator, which is basically his right-hand man. He's seen as this like handsome, promising successor who is pretty much annihilated during the atrocity on Thracian Primus, which is kind of it's a giant terrorist attack.
Right, and it was there was a big parade celebrating the culmination of a imperial campaign that was successful, and a bunch of chaos terrorists attacked during the celebration and killed a whole bunch of people and stole a bunch of psychers.
Yes. Just a hot tip: if you're reading a Dan Abnett book and there's a parade, don't expect it to go well.
Yeah, he loves using parades as things that go very poorly. Also, hot tip, if you're reading a Dan Abnett book and you like a character, try to stop liking that character.
Yeah, bad things happen to most of them. So speaking of bad things, Ravener, who is all but annihilated, his remains are interred in a force chair, which is basically an armored, powered wheelchair that hovers around.
He's Professor Xavier.
Professor Xavier from X-Men. Just wholesale Professor Xavier. That is my note I've got here. What if Professor Xavier had guns on his wheelchair? So, all right. So now that there's the preamble. I'm just going to talk about the first Ravener book here. It's very frustrating to read, and it's also very horny in like a very leering 13-year-old boy way.
Oh,
not
boy.
in like a Ian Watson psychosexual way, just in a very leering kind of immature way.
Okay.
So most of this focuses not really on Ravener himself, because I think Dan Abnett doesn't really seem that interested in exploring his character much in this first book. So you mostly spend time with his cast of inquisitorial weirdos. They are mostly kind of mean. They are all very hot, and he will not stop reminding you how hot they are. So you've got Harlan Nail, who was in Eisenhorn before. He's basically Stone Cold Steve Austin, but older and hotter, and he's written to be a total slob. I enjoy his character a lot.
Oh, he's Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like that is, I mean, that's it.
Yeah. Next you have Kara Swole, who is the other character I actually enjoy spending time with.
Fantastic name, by the way.
Yeah,
anything with Swole in it is like, I am 100% there.
Yeah, the names outside of like in the warband, especially outside of the warband, are fucking silly in these books. Yeah. Even for Warhammer, they're fucking silly. Yeah. So Kara Swole was an Eisenhorn before. She's a gymnast and an acrobat. She's a bitty acrobat. She is described as being kind of short. She's really hot. She has big boobs. There are multiple descriptors of how big her boobs are and how hot she is. And Nail has a conversation with Zael later about how big her boobs are and how hot she is. Did I mention she's hot and has big boobs? Because she's hot and has big boobs.
I think you did.
Even in the second book, like I'm reading it still, like she dropped onto her bottom on the ground and held her gun close to her ample bosom, and I'm just like, I get it.
Yeah, very male gazy, huh?
It's really male gazy. It's male gazy to a point where I'm even kind of like, I get it, man. You've got Patience Keys, who I mentioned before. She was introduced in Playing Patience. She's a really powerful, sadistic psyker who is also very hot and very skinny, but she's also very mean, and reading her sections is not really fun to read. Like, she's just kind of shitty to everyone. You've got Methuin, who is a heavy weapons guy with a metal hand like Barrett from Final Fantasy VII.
I always said Mathwin.
I read it as Methuen because it's a town in Massachusetts.
Oh.
The only defined characteristic he really has is that Ravener can wear him easily because Ravener can possess people just whenever, which is kind of a cool way to kind of get a better view of what a fight is going on, but is also kind of like is kind of creepy and weird, and I don't know. I don't love it. You've got Frauke, who's the blank, who just chain smokes and looks at porn, and that's all he does.
No, he's the best character in the book, though. Let's be honest.
He's the most relatable.
He just hates everything because being a blank means that people can't stand being around you. So everybody hates him and he hates everybody, and I love it.
Yeah, he just sits in a chair chain smoking, you're looking at porn, and not even like he's not even excited by it. He's just like doom scrolling through Pornhub.
It's funny because Dan Abnett is the serious writer, and Sandy Mitchell, who writes the Caiaphas Cain books, is the very unserious writer. Mm-hmm. And they both have blanks who look at porn.
Yeah, that's the defining characteristic of being of having no soul and being cyclically null, is that you just got a crippling porn addiction.
Oh, well, I want to come back to that after you say your piece here.
Okay. You've got Carl Thonius, who's his interrogator, who's his right-hand man, who's written to be like...
Who sucks.
Yeah, he kind of sucks. He's kind of shitty. He's a dandy who just loves being dressed up, which is at least an entertaining character aspect. But he's a real jerk, and he's really off-putting. Like, there's a whole conversation he has with Patience where she's just like, "You're a pussy," and he's like, "Well, you're a whore," and they just do that for a page, and it's not fun to read. And he is developing over the course of the story in a way that nobody else does, not necessarily in a way good for him, but he at least has character development. And then you have Zael, who's this psycher junkie 12-year-old hillbilly, 14-year-old, sorry, who they pick up in Eustis Majoris, which is the city that most of this takes place in, who is just kind of your like fish out of water sort of point of view character, but also he just keeps calling Ravener Chair, which is very funny to me.
Oh no, he calls him the Chair, and that is like, is the first time I read that I laughed out loud.
Yeah,
because it's so perfect. Because Ravener is, oh man, Ravener's not a character I like very much.
He's not,
to be honest.
Yeah, he's not very interesting. Like, that's a problem with any sort of like kind of omniscient character like this, is you're either writing them with such reverence, like the Emperor in like Master of Mankind, where you're just focusing the people around them and kind of how in awe and how scared they are of this person, or they're just kind of boring. And Ravener is kind of boring.
I think in Ravener's case, because he is locked in his chair, like he's very sad.
Yes.
And he's very smart, and he knows everything, and he always knows the right thing to do, but he doesn't tell anybody what's going on ever. He withholds information from everybody, and he's just like kind of like sad and shitty all the time.
Yeah, and also horny.
Well, yeah, because he's stuck in a chair.
Yeah, because there's a scene in the second book where he's like watching Kara Swole work out, and he's like, "Oh man, if only I had a body again." And
oh my god!
I was just like,
oh, dude, he is Incel Professor X.
Yeah. Oh fuck. Oh, that's damning. But good.
He is. Oh my god. He's Incel Professor X.
Well, the thing is, like, I
can't take this book seriously anymore.
No, you can't, or any of them. It's impossible to not compare Ravener to Eisenhorn because it is the sequel series. Like, Eisenhorn is, even though he's extremely powerful and hyper competent and wealthy and intelligent, his drives and his feelings and like the frailty of his body, like all these things are actually very relatable. Like, right. A lot of the core of his character is saying you can understand whether you've read it or felt it or lived it, you know?
Yeah.
And with Ravener, like, it's really cool that you have a disabled main character. I think that is like a very cool thing to have, but the way he's written is so insufferable and so inscrutable.
I don't know if he should count as a disabled main character because he has all these like crazy powers, and he lives this like omniscient perspective in the books. There's nothing relatable about him.
Yeah.
To like anyone.
Yeah.
Like I feel like he's certainly not disabled representation.
No.
Like at all.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I guess he would be considered disabled, but like, again, his situation is so unrealistic that I don't know if you could really count it.
Yeah, I know. I completely do understand that. And if you person listening has a different perspective on this, I'd actually very much like to hear it, because
love to hear that.
A bit of a blind spot for me.
Totally, yeah.
So aside from Zale calling him the chair, and after Ravener kills a guy, Zale says, "Looks like he had a bad chair day," which I wrote that line down because that's a thing that Dan Abnett, serious writer, put in a book.
I love it. So Zale is fantastic because I read this in preparation for this segment. He grows up to become a Grey Knight.
Oh, spoilers. I didn't know that. Well, again, I've only read the first book. Well, that's a shock. All right. So
no, this is after the Ravener series. Okay. It's like a different storyline that creates that nonsense.
Okay.
But yeah, that's hilarious to me.
So there's the cast, and there's some highlights, there's some lowlights of this cast, and they're kind of not all characterized especially well. I understand that this is written more as an arc, and you get a better grasp of them over the course of all 3 books. But like, this is still still reading this book alone, you should get a better idea of who these people are, and maybe find some more sympathy for the characters. As the main story, this is basically them busting a drug smuggling ring. Well, right. It's space cop shit, and that's fine. That's a perfectly good premise for a novel, especially for Inquisitors. And as with all these sorts of stories, as they investigate, things go higher and higher all the way to the top. Again, right. As you'd expect. And the main drug here are these things called flects, Flects, which aren't really well defined until like the last chapter of the book. And I never quite got how they were used. But basically, they're little shards of glass that give you wild visions when you look at them. And the twist, which is actually, I think, pretty fucking cool, is that they are the glass from these shattered windows on this corrupted hive city in a world at the edge of the warp. Like, I think that's a really cool sort of like angle that isn't just like, yeah, this is space cocaine. It's hitting the street. Right. Like,
it's a haunted glass that you look into, and it shows you capital T truths.
Yeah. I'm looking at the deep web right now. So the thing is, the story is mostly placed on Eustace Majoris, which is like the shittiest hive city. Like, think of the shittiest hive city. This is shittier. It's like corrosive rain, rampant drug use and poverty, prostitutes on every street corner, or joy girls, I think they're called. And it all feels very like cyberpunk and unsubtle, but it's pretty cool. It seems like a pretty cool place to set this series of books, because I know they mostly revolve around this. But the story is extremely set piece heavy. And that's not necessarily the worst thing, but it feels like he had like half a dozen ideas for cool places for things to happen, and didn't really care how the time in between them is spent. Like, the time in between them is very uninteresting, and the action that happens pretty often, because there's a lot of murder, death, kill in this book, is probably the first time in a Black Library book where I just skimmed the action sections, where I'm just like, I don't fucking care. I get it. They're good at fighting. They're not going to die. It's the first book. Everyone's fine. So the set pieces now, like, you've got Eustace Majoris, which is so cartoonishly shitty it makes Max Payne look like Wonderland. I kind of like that. You've got Carnivora, the gladiator circus thing. That place fucking rules. It feels very 40k, but like something I haven't seen before. And it's not just your typical carnival of chaos. Like, no, this is just meat circus. This is bloody and crazy and cool. Right. Then you've got a rogue trader station, Lucky Space, which is just Mos Eisley Cantina. You've got a hunter meetup on another planet, Lucky Space, which isn't that interesting, but it's so far out in the edge of Imperial territory that no one gives a shit about the Inquisition. And they're like, if you go missing, no one's going to come looking for you. And that was actually a cool angle, and not really something that I've seen much of. And then it kind of sucks they get off that pretty quickly to go into a very boring spaceship battle where the bad guys have Ravener's crew held hostage, and instead of just gunning them down, which they super can because they're all in cages, they let the ship lazily drift towards the sun like Dr. Evil.
Yeah.
And it's just throwing a ship into the sun really slowly is lame. There's like this team of like investigators from Eustace Majoris who are actually corrupt, working for the bad guys, who are tagging along with Ravener's group. And, you know, one's a super powerful psyker, and he and Ravener have a psyker battle, and it feels kind of like a 12-year-old making up stuff where there's like, and then he turns into a psychic shark, and the shark has swords for teeth, and he flies around like Pashoo. And like, we can assume that if Ravener loses, he'll die. And it's interesting when he like hides in other people, but again, it's a fight so far removed from reality, or so far removed from what I even can understand as reality, that I can't latch onto it. I know he's not going to lose. He's the main character. There's no drama. And that kind of brings me back to Ravener being kind of a lame character. Like, what does he do for fun? What makes him happy? What makes him sad? What drives him personally? The sections from his perspective are super...
I know what makes him sad.
Everything.
He can't fuck.
He can't fuck. That's true. Well, that's the thing. He's even written as being kind of horny in Eisenhorn. He's a side character in Eisenhorn. So like, and he's made of meat at that time, as opposed to being chair. So he's fairly horny there, but it's like he has a girlfriend. And that's one thing, as opposed to here where he's just sad. But the sections from his perspective, because he's so omniscient, they might as well just be from the narrator's perspective. Like, I don't get why they're in first person. And that brings us next to like dialogue. There's a lot of talking, as you'd expect, and everyone swears a lot. And like, I get cussing. I do it plenty a lot myself, but this is like constant, and it's so much of it is like dumb 40k cussing, where people are like, "Oh, you freaking fucking knuckhead," and it just feels very dumb, and it feels kind of like this ain't your daddy's Inquisitor rude dude shit. Yeah,
I mean, I get why people have sci-fi cuss words.
Yeah, I do too.
And it was to get around censorship, like originally.
Yeah,
but like. The reason cuss words are a thing is because they carry an impact with them. The meaning of the word does.
Yeah.
So when, like, I believe in Gaunt's Ghost, he uses feth.
Yeah, feth and gack are the ones they use.
Yeah, and like, I get at one point they actually break into what feth means, and it's like this Tanith wood spirit named Feth who like fucks with stuff basically, and like that's cool, that's interesting. But if you don't give any context to the fake swear words, like they mean nothing. It's just like, just put fuck in the book.
Like they say shit a couple times, but only a couple times. And there's a lot of that when it comes to the writing. There's a lot of like, all right, made up words, techno jargon, whatever. It's Warhammer. I get it. But
like if you were called a Grox fucker, like if a character was called a Grox fucker, like that would be like, god damn it.
Like we have an episode
that works.
We have an episode called Ignorant Grox Fondlers. You get what that means because they describe Grox are like lizard cows.
Right, but when you're like, oh, you're a Grox gacker. Like, oh.
Yeah, when it's like double layered fake words without any sort of real world modifiers, it's just silly.
Don't use a fake verb or a fake adverb or whatever the fuck with a fake noun.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Yeah, and like that's just all the writing and dialogue is like that, and it's a lot of like new lingo that I've never seen before in another book. I really do kind of get the notion that he reread Neuromancer and was like, let me get some of that cyberpunk energy in here, because it feels a lot like that a lot of the time. And again, in the kind of like edgy, like it feels actually like, I would say it feels kind of like an edgy late 90s like White Wolf RPG. Like it feels very much like Hunter the Reckoning or something like that, with how like not your daddy's Inquisitor this is. Now, as for the story, like I kind of described I described the 4 set pieces, and that's kind of most of the story. And then it ends with not one but 2 Deus Ex Machinas, and neither of them are interesting. So aside from the fact that whenever someone's in serious danger, Ravener can just wear them and pull them out of the fire, which he does to Carl, he does to Kara, he does to Methuen. Only one of them really has any lasting consequences, and that's Carl. He gets his hand cut off, and then they sew it back on, and later on it goes kind of crazy, like a Revolver Ocelot. And then, like, near like the last chapter when their ship is getting boarded, Frauke, who's just sitting there smoking, reading porn, a dude just walks up and plugs him, just like blasts a hole in his chest. Like you can see through the hole in his torso. Like he is dead. And I'm just like, oh fuck, there's consequences. Named characters are dying. And then when that dude, the psychic bad guy and Ravener are having their astral projecting battle, Frauke, Ravener's about to die. Like he's about to lose. He's described as being at the very edge of his limit. Frauke, despite having a hole in his chest and being functionally dead for 30 pages, just gets up and snaps the dude's neck and sits back down. And then it's like, oh, that oh shit, they're not fucking around moment just got rescinded. And he's fine in the next book. He's just back. And then while Ravener is astral projecting, despite the fact that he's almost dead, he flies around, literally knocks out all the bad guys, including the one who's got Sko, who's got nailed dead to rights. Flies into the like navigator of the ship, says launch torpedoes. Flies into the bad guy ship, which has kind of been idly plinking at them. Possesses their weapons officer to turn the shield off, and then the torpedoes hit the ship. And the bad guy captain, who got no characterization, curses Ravener's name like Cobra Commander and explodes, and the book's over.
Yeah, why didn't he just fucking start with that plan?
Yeah, and also, again, they had Ravener's entire crew in cages. They could have gunned them down.
Dipshit, you can do anything. Why don't you just do that?
Yeah.
Possess everybody.
Yeah, and the fact that when it's like Ravner was almost dead psychically, and then he just like pops out, just knocks everybody over, and just wins. Because I'm like, I've heard this common thing that like Dan Abnett doesn't write endings very well, and I do follow that sort of line of criticism. Like a lot of the Gaunt's Ghost books feel like they need another 10 pages just to kind of wrap things up. A little more.
Like the pacing of Gaunt's Ghost books is, I think. I mean, I love the Gaunt's Ghost books. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of times the pacing goes from like, okay, this is a interesting action story that's moving along, an understandable thing, and then oh my god, everything is happening in 10 pages.
Yeah, like I think one of the last,
and you end up having to like reread everything.
Yeah,
because like huge momentous stuff on the first half of the page, huge momentous stuff on the second half of the page, and you're just like, oh my god, can we get a little bit of fucking like space in between these things a little bit? And I think that a lot of that happens in the Eisenhorn and Ravner books also.
The thing is with Eisenhorn, like you get to spend a lot of that space, like, because he luxuriates a little bit. Like in the third Eisenhorn book, a lot of it is just on a train, and a lot of it is just sightseeing on a train. Again, it felt very much like You Only Live Twice. I think that's the Bon Bias Moti on trains. That or From Russia with Love. Probably From Russia with Love. And it's just kind of him chilling on a train. Bad stuff happens. He gets to chill somewhere else. Like the pacing of that one is much better. And then like the last like 80 pages is just like everything, all hell breaks loose. But like the first like 2/3 are kind of a bit more up and down. Gaunt's Ghost books, a lot of time I'll feel like the first half I'm like, what's going on here? What's going to happen? And oh god, there's no breaks in this train. But like this just kind of felt like, I don't know, this just felt like here's a couple things and the space between them doesn't matter and it's over. And I think the problem is what frustrates me so much about this book, because like I've written off Dan Abnett books before when they're like I Am Slaughter, the first Beast Rises book, that book sucks. And the only thing I can remember about that book is that there's a dude named Stab. That's his wall name, and he doesn't stab anyone. And that sums up how I feel about I Am Slaughter. But like the first Ravner book has some generally cool stuff in it. Despite the constant descriptors of her boobs, I like Kara Swall a lot. Harlan Nail, love that dude. Pretty telling that they're actually from the Eisenhorn books first. The set pieces, like Carnivora, fucking cool. The idea of like being out on the outskirts where Imperial law isn't recognized, pretty fucking neat too. Eustace Majoris, that's a cool city. I know I'm going to spend more time there. That's the setting of this RPG campaign. But there so much that sucks, and it makes me feel really bad reading this book. Like I was just waiting for this book to end and skimming most of the action scenes. I'm reading the second one right now, and Ravner Returned, I think it is. It addresses some of my problems. Like Ravner is a bit more personal. Frauke has a little bit more dialogue. Patience kind of sees Zale as like sort of like her ward and is like a little kinder to him and isn't as much of a sadist. You've got like Carl's character development where like bad things are happening to him. Kara and Nail are still cool and hot even if it keeps telling you that. And like all the other male gazy shit, but like it does address some of my problems, and I'll see how I feel when I get to the end of the second Ravner book. But the first one I did not enjoy.
Okay.
I mean,
why are you reading the second one?
So I can read the Magos. Because I want to read the last Eisenhorn book.
All right.
And like
okay.
Thorn Meets Talon, which is like a short story where basically Ravner and Eisenhorn meet. Like after the first Ravner book, like it's pretty cool. Like I like that, but again, you're kind of getting perspectives of more characters, and Ravner is only one voice among many. He's not the primary one, really.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Ravner. Campbell didn't like it.
Nope. I have slaughtered the sacred cow.
Well, that's okay, Campbell, because no gods, no masters.
Very true.
All right, let's move on. We've got yet another version of Crusade Focus, and this time it's on the Death Guard. And Campbell, I say this every single time, but this might be my favorite Crusade Focus so far.
There's some very cool stuff in here, I'm not going to lie.
This one's really cool, but let's start as we do with agendas. All right, we got 5 this time. I'm not skipping one. Let's start with Honor the Patron. Quick aside, they use the word honor a lot in Games Workshop publications, but they spell it the British version with the extra vowel. And whenever I put it in my notes, I spell it the American version with no extra vowels because, God damn it, I'm American.
That's reverse colonization, baby.
Yeah. All right, so Honor the Patron. If a unit kills 7 or more enemy models, not enemy units, models, it gets 1 experience point. And if 7 or more units in your army have 3 or more extinction marks, which is to say killed 3 or more models, you gain a I had to look up how to say this word because I wanted to say it correctly. Virulence point. Okay. Not virulence, but virulence point. And we'll get to what virulence points do in just a little bit. This one seems like a really good way to get all of your models a little bit of experience.
Right. And you're also going to notice a lot of 3s and 7s in this book.
Yes. All right. Turn their hope to rot. Destroy the highest power level unit in the enemy army. The unit that did that gains 3 experience, and you get 1 virulence point.
Pretty safe.
Again, virulence points. We're going to get to those in just a little bit. This one seems like, I don't know, not that great. Because generally you want to spread the experience around, but this one also seems like a potentially easy one to get. Like if you're going to, like if you're playing me with my like normal list, it's either my eradicators or my what do you call it? No, it's my eradicators. So if you just kill my eradicators, they're donezo. You get the 3 XP, which I guess that's kind of easy to do. You kill 1 unit and somebody gets a good amount of experience. But I generally like the ones where you can spread it around a little more.
Yeah. And
all right, next up is Poison the Well. It's not just a weird metal/emo band from the thousands. It's also a Death Guard agenda. I had to look up some of their music because I remember friends of mine listened to them in high school and stuff. And I listened to like 30 seconds of a song and I was like, nope, no thanks.
That's a little outside my my musical sphere here.
Units can take an action to contaminate terrain that they are standing in. They get 2 times the number of terrain pieces they contaminated in experience points for this. And if half or more of the terrain pieces get contaminated, then you get a virulence point.
I think this is cool. I wish that corrupted terrain did something negative to your opponent or positive to you, like on the tabletop, just because that feels more nurgly to me. But still, it's cool.
It is cool. All right, and then we have 2 more. We have Sow the Infection, Harvest the Plague. Great name. Gain virulence points based on how many objectives have been in contagion range over the course of the battle. This is no experience rewards, just virulence rewards.
Just pretty, it's different, but if you're trying to go for one and not the other, this seems like the one to take.
Yeah. And then finally, we have Gene Seed Thief, which is basically the apothecary agendas that we've looked at in the past, but this time for a plague surgeon instead of an apothecary.
Yep.
Instead of recovering the gene seed, you're stealing the gene seed, which is done the same way as recovering gene seed, but is a lot more ominous, I guess.
Yeah, it's not recovering so much as decovering.
It's stealing. All right. Next, we get Chaos Boons. Now, Amar, okay, so the agendas, they're okay.
Yeah, nothing.
The virulence point stuff, like at this point, I hadn't read it, so I didn't know what those did. So I was like, oh, interesting. But here we come into the stuff that I'm all about. Chaos Boons. All right, so these are a new type of battle honor that Death Guard characters can take. You always roll for them also, which we've talked about this before. Rolling for stuff in Crusade is a must, and this is you always roll for them. Love it. It's great. You can take these when a model would generally get a battle honor, and you can have more than one.
Yeah, up to 3 rolling on a D33 table.
But if a duplicate is rolled, Campbell, the character becomes a chaos spawn,
and the chaos spawn keeps all their old experience points.
It's awesome. I love it when you can make choices that inadvertently go wrong in Crusade, and this is just great.
Yeah.
But listeners, keep Chaos Boons in the top of your mind because we're going to come back to them in just a little bit here because there's some cool stuff you can do.
Yeah, I also have a strong feeling they're going to port this over to whatever Chaos Space Marine Codex comes in the future. Just like
absolutely.
Some different boons, but yeah.
And a lot of these are pretty good too. Like they're not bad. Like you want these. It's not like just like ignore this. It's not fun. But like you can get extra wounds, extra attacks, extra toughness,
clawed feet.
The best one is 33 here on the D33 table, favored by Nurgle. Once per turn, you can re-roll a single hit, wound, damage, or saving throw made for this model.
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
pretty fucking good. All right. Next up, we've got battle traits. There are 2 sections for infantry and demon engine. I have selected one of each to talk about. Campbell, have you?
More or less, yeah.
Sure. All right. So my infantry favorite, mainly for the name, is Bone Horns. Love this. And it's basically impact mortal wounds on 5-ups.
Yeah, that's always going to be handy.
Mm-hmm. You want to put it on a big unit that can potentially put out a lot of mortal wounds because of it. Because those 5-ups are swingy, but when you roll hot, you roll into a battle with like 3 or 4 mortal wounds starting at the top, it's pretty fucking good.
Yeah, no, my favorite one on here is not because of its rule, but because of its name, and that is Sensitive Dermis. Oh, my dermis! It's so sensitive, which is why I can Overwatch on 5s instead of 6s.
That's because you're so sensitive. All right, and then we have Demon Engine battle traits, and my favorite is Acidic Residue. This adds a hit stacking debuff. So what happens is if you shoot something, let's say you're a fetid bloat drone with plague spewers, which again hit automatically. When you hit, then you add this debuff to the unit for the rest of the phase, where for other units that shoot at them, hits of 6 inflict an extra hit. This is hit stacking debuff, and it's really cool. I wish there was more stuff like this just in 40k, where you get to have a unit that might not be super great, but if you can get up there and hit something with its weapons, then it makes the rest of your army good at shooting. Honestly, it's kind of Tau-ish if you think about it.
When I think of synergy like that, I think Tau. I really like it too. I think it's extremely cool. A little situational, but very cool. As for my favorite one here, not my favorite one to play against, but the favorite one to take on my own, I'd imagine, would be Plated Growths, which is you ignore AP1 and AP2 on your Demon Engine. So you're never going to fucking die.
Spicy. AP1 and 2.
Yeah, so...
Ignoring AP1 is... fucking who cares? But ignoring AP1 and 2, that's a deal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into what is honestly the coolest thing I think we've seen in Crusade so far: Spreaders of Disease. So, this is where the virulence points come in. At the beginning of your Crusade, you randomly determine a custom army plague for your Death Guard army, which we will do here for you listeners for Campbell's custom plague and my custom plague in just a little bit. But let's talk about how it works first. So you can create this custom. Well, you have to create this custom plague, and then you can designate your warlord as the plague carrier. And then there's a requisition to designate up to 3 more characters in your army as plague carriers, but the warlord is the one who starts out as your plague carrier. And he has this 3-stage system of a custom plague, where you've got the vector, which is how the plague spreads, the infection, what it does, and the terminus, how the plague ends. And so each plague has those 3 parts, and there's 6 different
things of each
parts for each plague. And so your warlord and other plague carriers can spread them to the enemy. Now, this stuff is completely awesome. Oh, and there's you have to name them correctly too. Yeah. Like if you roll dice and you get oozing, and then you get debilitating, and then you get lesions, your plague is called Oozing Debilitating Lesions. Yeah. And I love this shit. This is so cool.
Yeah, this replaces the name generator in this codex, which is it's worth it. It's I'm sad, but it's worth it.
It's worth it. It's so good. All right, so as a way to explain how this works, Campbell and I are going to roll up our plagues to you. I think this is the easiest way to do it, because otherwise there's just a lot of words and it's not that interesting. So I'm going to roll a dice here, Campbell, and I want you to get a dice ready for me too. Okay. And I'm going to roll my vector, how the plague is spread. All right, that's a 5. It is hemorrhaging. At the end of your movement phase, roll 1d6 for each enemy unit within 3 inches of any plague carrier models from your army. On a 4-up, that unit is contaminated.
Hell yeah.
So you just got to get close to the enemy. Roll it up, Campbell.
Right, now for the infection. 6, Ravaging. When a unit becomes contaminated, it suffers D3 mortal wounds. At the start of your command phase, each contaminated unit suffers 1 mortal wound.
Oh, damn.
And last but not least, I think that, yeah, there you go.
Sorry, I had to find the dice. Boobos.
I am 12.
At the end of your opponent's movement phase, roll a d6 for each contaminated enemy that had every model move at least 7 inches this phase. On a 2-up, that unit is no longer contaminated.
I love the idea the cure to this plague is cardio.
All right, so this was oozing.
Hemorrhaging.
I'm sorry, hemorrhaging.
Ravaging buboes.
Hemorrhaging, ravaging buboes. That's excellent.
Oh, this fucking...
All right, let's do one more just for funsies.
Yeah, all right, I'll start. So for the vector, 2, that is bleeding. Each time a plague carrier model from your army makes a melee attack against a unit, if a hit is scored, that unit is contaminated.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. All right, infections, what does it do? 2, pitted. Each time a model in a contaminated unit shoots with a weapon, subtract 1 from the number of attacks made with that weapon to a minimum of 1.
Yikes.
Holy shit.
And finally, soars. At the end of your opponent's turn, roll 1d6 for each contaminated enemy unit, subtracting 2 if the unit being rolled for was contaminated this turn. On a 4-up, that unit is no longer contaminated. So that was bleeding, pitted, soars.
Ooh.
Nasty.
Yeah. All right, so that's how it works, gang. It's the vector is how it happens. The infection is what happens, and the terminus is how the other player gets out of it. Really cool system.
I adore this.
Yeah, this is like, not only is it a random generator with fun names of stuff, it's also a random generator of fun names of stuff that can really be nasty and effective on the battlefield. And so again, we're not going to go into all this because there's 6 of each, 36 different things to talk about, and just know.
Yeah.
Or 18 rather. But then the combinations, there's 6 by 6 by 6. So what's 36 times 6? 256? Something like that? A lot. I don't know. Too many to talk about in this already long podcast. Let's go to requisitions. All right, we've got a slew of them. Deadly pathogens. You can purchase a deadly pathogen for a character, unit, or champion. That's an upgrade.
Yeah.
So just like the chapter command in Space Marines, deadly pathogens are upgrades for units for Death Guard.
Right.
Virulent adaptations. All right, this is where virulence points comes in. So you can spend a virulence point and a requisition point to re-roll one aspect of the army's custom plague.
Yeah.
It doesn't say anything about re-rolling duplicates here, but I would allow it.
Yeah, I think that's in the spirit of the rule.
Yeah. So this is how you change the way. Like, for instance, some of these, the vectors are a lot better than others. Like the oozing one, the hemorrhaging one, where you have to be within 3 inches and you have to roll a 4-up. That's not a good one. The bleeding one that Campbell talked about, where all you have to do is hit somebody in melee, that's a good one.
Yeah, which I think this is also cool because like actual diseases mutate, but they don't like completely change overnight. So you're just changing one part of it, which is really cool. So this is again where the virulence points come in. So next we have plague marked. This is where you can spend an RP and a virulence point to make a character a plague carrier. You can have a max
just like we talked about.
Yeah, you can have a max of 3 of those in your army at a time. So not everybody is spreading them, but it's a force multiplier. It's excellent.
Next up, we have Demon Hood. Love this. Upgrade a unit with 3 Chaos Boons to a Demon Prince. Keep the XP and any Warlord traits or relics, if applicable and legal. So this is a great way to get more Demon Princes in your army, where you have characters who've taken a lot of Chaos Boons and not turned into spawns get to become Demon Princes, which of course we know very powerful for Death Guard.
And I guarantee this will be in the regular Chaos Marine Codex too, and Thousand Suns probably.
Absolutely, yeah. And then lastly, we have Path to Glory. This one I'm sure will be in the regular Chaos Marine book whenever that comes out. Use when your Warlord killed the enemy Warlord after a battle. Your Warlord can take a Chaos Boon. So you're not waiting to level up. You can just snag a boon if you kill the enemy warlord. Love it. All right, Crusade relics. There's a lot of fun ones. First one, Billowing Censer, best relic ever.
Yep.
9-inch aura of +2 to explode.
Yeah, so whenever your friendly units, namely friendly ones, roll on their detonation roll, you have a +2 to it within 9 inches, which is fortunately outside the blast radius of most of them. Orcs better get this. Orcs better get something very similar to this.
Yeah, this is awesome. I think that if you don't take this on a character that's going to be near demon engines at any point, you're a coward, and you should have your Death Guard army stripped from you. All right, next we have Corrupted Emblem, which is a +1 or -1 to adapt your army's plague.
Useful.
It's useful.
Yep.
Because plagues are a lot of fun. Orb of Decay is a 1-use mortal wound bomb. And then we come to the big one, the Warp Charm of Nurgle. This is the legendary relic. So, again, 2 RP and 3 Crusade points for this one. The bearer always counts as being in turn 4 for the purposes of determining contagion range, which I believe is a 9-inch range that can be buffed with further warlord traits to like 12 or 15 or something stupid. And that one's really fucking good.
Yeah, and that is the maximum.
Mortarion has that.
Yes. Yeah, that gives you a pretty good idea of how good this is. It's way better than the bad ball, the one-time use Orb of Decay.
Right.
No, this one's fucking great.
So I have one thought.
Okay.
Just like you had thoughts about Ravenor, I have one thought about the Death Guard Crusade section, and it's, this shit rules. Death Guard is awesome. Fuck to Harlequins.
Fuck to Harlequins, you say?
I'm just putting it out there.
Okay.
Fuck to Harlequins.
Okay. Elf bullshit dies.
It's just a thing I just want to say. And I feel like there's a lot of people that are sitting there listening on their earbuds or in the car or out loud on their phone on the bus, which is of course the preferred way.
Best way to listen to the show.
Listen to the 40k Badcast. Who hear the words "fuck to Harlequins" and they think, yes, finally somebody's saying the quiet part out loud.
I'm so sad to hear that you are not down to clown until you are 6 feet in the ground.
I am for some things, but unfortunately not for Harlequins.
Not for elf.
Fuck the Harlequins. The Death Guard Crusade section, I'm absolutely in love with it. These rules are amazing. This army rules. I'm so happy that Death Guard are, near the top of competitiveness in Warhammer 40k, and I'm thrilled that they get a really cool book.
Yeah, I'm happy for them too. And like even the build your own custom plagues thing is so fucking cool. It's impossible to balance for competitive play, but for like Crusade, so fucking cool. And like even in the last episode, I was talking about House of Blades. I was saying I was a little like overwhelmed maybe by the variety of poisons and chems you could take, and by kind of making it not only random but also like built into your army, so you don't have to pay for it. Like you get to have the fun parts. You don't have to like hide them behind a wall like you do in Necromunda for the poison stuff. I love it. Fucking love it. More of this, please.
All right, Campbell. It's time.
It is time.
Factor fan fiction. Hit me.
Got a very brief one today that was sent in by our friend Brandon via Peter. Yes, Brandon, you are too shy to send this to me, so Peter did it for you. This is a descriptor of a Chaos Space Marine warband, and I need you to let me know if this is true Factor fan fiction. The Sentinels chapter took war to the fleshy crust of Oliensis, a demon world in the shape of a morbidly obese man. The battle brothers of the Sentinels hunted down the goat-headed hedonists that frolicked there. Then, from the planet's yawning pores, came noise marines. The Sentinels fought hard until the planet itself stirred. Awoken by the din, Oliensis devoured the combatants, later regurgitating them as the cannibalistic Corpus Brethren renegades. And pictured is a gnawing brute whose chewing teeth are never still.
Wow, that's quite the imagery, huh? Ugh, that's gross. Pores.
Yeah.
You ever think about pores?
I do. I don't.
I try not to.
I don't have tryptophobia necessarily, but looking at Lotus pods does not make me happy.
Well, Campbell, I've got bad news, bud. That's real.
That is real. You are correct. Yes, there is a planet out there that's just a dude.
Just a real fat dude.
Like you thought you liked the Isle of Man. Well, listen to this.
the planet
of man.
The planet of Guy.
All right. The dude subsector.
All right, well, before we get out of here, let's do the plugs. Goonhammer.com. We both write for it. It's a good website. Go there. Read the stuff. We like it.
Yeah.
You should too.
Yeah.
Twitter, Facebook. What's the other one? Tumblr.
Social media, they're all bad, but our
Website.
posts there are pretty okay. So that's facebook.com/40k Badcast for our podcast page, camtd.tumblr.com for my Tumblr where I post pictures of stuff. And then I'm at BrotherSRM and he is at DB_Sleazy on Twitter where we post stuff too. So, do that.
Mostly cat-related content, but honestly, that's really what the world needs right now.
It's one of the few things I would say is an absolute good. If for whatever reason you listened to this and thought, I want to give these yahoos some money, go to shop.spreadshirt.com/40k Badcast to buy a t-shirt.
Buy stickers. Buy stickers.
Buy stickers, buy t-shirts, buy grilling aprons. I'll be making a new t-shirt soon. I've been saying that for 3 weeks, but I've been having a fucking time.
Do crimes with the stickers.
Do cool crimes with the stickers. Not bad crimes, cool crimes. You know the difference. Last but not
we trust the listeners to know the difference between cool crimes and bad crimes.
Well, I'm giving myself just enough deniability so this won't hold up in a court of law.
Do the crimes with the stickers.
Do the good crimes. And if you want to support us on an ongoing basis, again, for reasons that elude me, go to patreon.com/40k Badcast, where we post bonus episodes every single month, including this one. We don't know what about yet, but it'll happen soon.
It needs to happen soon. It's almost halfway through the month of February here in the Lord's year of 2021. So
I thought you were going to say here in the United States, like there's different calendars and I guess there are different calendars in different countries, but
yeah,
whatever.
Of course there are, Campbell. Come on.
Who the fuck cares?
There's like 4 major calendars, and they all vie for which one is correct. It's ridiculous. You and your Anglo-centric worldview.
It's my fault. I am exceptionally American.
What was I saying?
Something that I was interrupting about. Calendars. February is almost over.
Patreon. Yeah, we got to get
Patreon,
a February Patreon episode going on. Wow, we're good at this. It needs to happen. It'll happen. I don't know what we're going to talk about. Maybe the weather? We'll have a podcast about the weather.
Fantastic. I look forward to taking an hour-long nap while you talk about the weather.
Maybe I'll do a podcast about how important it is to plant trees and not cut down trees.
That's good. I can't plant trees here because if they're too close to my house will catch on fire because I live in the desert.
Yeah, don't do that. But, plant trees, even if you live in a dry area. It's not.
But in the good places.
It's not a joke. Plant trees. Don't cut them down.
Yeah.
Okay. Finally, at the end of the show, we always have a quote, a Warhammer-themed quote that Campbell reads to me. And then we, take a couple weeks off, think about it, and reconvene to analyze our thoughts and feelings about the previous quote. So, Campbell, what do you got this time?
To fall for something is better than to stand for nothing.
There is a really good Hatebreed song called Live for This that I absolutely love. And it's basically that. And I'm just going to go listen to it.
Hell yeah. No, pretend I just recited that entire song as my inspo for this episode.
Love it. All right, gang. We're the 40k Badcast. We're bad at so many things. I've lost count at this point, but we are bad at 40k, and you can too. And we will see you in the next cartoon.